Hey guys, welcome back to WebMD&DM, where I talk about the tall tales that take place around my table while playing both games, the Dungeons and the Dragons. This is the 7th episode of the Eastern Evils Campaign Diary, otherwise known as Market Day Part 2. When last we left our heroes, the party, having been sent to the small village of Orlane to find a man known as Duven's Stall who had been missing for some time, had eventually discovered Duven's Stall, dealt with a small kobold tribe, and interacted with a bandit tribe that kidnapped the party and then escaped the party. After their hard trials and tribulations that they had to go through in this last week, the party were looking forward to some relaxation back at town. However, it seemed that there was still trouble brewing in the surrounding region. A man known as Calorel the Scion had sent a messenger to communicate with the kobold tribe and inform them of the party's appearance in the region. So somebody was up to something evil. Having discussed these findings with the local mage, Valthrun the Prescient, the party had been invited to dinner at Valthrun's tower to discuss matters further and to figure out exactly what was going on. But before dinner, first, there was Market Day. As discussed in the previous episode, Market Day is the once-a-week festival that happens in the village of Orlane when the merchants from the nearby town of Voxley Allen come up to the small village, bringing supplies and products and finished goods that the villagers will trade their food and whatever crafts they can make in exchange. So basically it's a big sort of party where everybody buys and trades. Most of the party went about some basic business. Hoss bought some healing potions, Bruce and Joff went and bought a shield, Hoss talked with the blacksmith about creating some strange weapon, but one party member was not content to simply do some shopping. Lysander, the elf warlock with a checkered past, had decided that this was the perfect opportunity to run a series of cons. One of them, in particular, his favorite, the Castle and Castle Paladins at Law scheme. And it was successful. He was able to make a little bit of money while doing this. However, he did attract the ire of some of the local militia, known as the Orlane Regulars. The Regulars questioned Lysander, and when Lysander's answers weren't up to snuff, tried to detain him. Lysander decided that now was a good time to beat feet. But in his attempt to escape, he ended up falling flat on his back and in the guards' hands, almost immediately. And that's where we pick up this session. Lysander, detained by the Orlane Regulars, is dragged before Ron Kelfelm, an elf captain of the guard in the village of Orlane. Captain Kelfelm demands to know who Lysander is, and Lysander tries to tell him that he is Castle, he is a paladin, he shouldn't be detained like this. But Captain Kelfelm doesn't believe him, shockingly. Captain Kelfelm informs him that if he doesn't come clean about who he is right now, he is going to detain him for an indefinite amount of time until he feels like telling the truth. At the threat of imprisonment, Lysander cracks. Pulling out a rag, he wipes off his disguise that he'd worked so hard on this morning and tells Captain Kelfelm that he is one of the adventurers who rescued Duven's Stall and dealt with the kobolds on Lord Shaun's orders. Captain Kelfelm calls for Lord Shaun because part of him hopes that Lysander is lying, and part of him believes that Lord Shaun would, in fact, have hired a fool such as this. Lord Shaun arrives, sees Captain Kelfelm behind his desk, sees Lysander in the chair, and does one of these. Lord Shaun asks Captain Kelfelm, what's the situation, what happened? Captain Kelfelm explains that this man had been arrested for evasion of the guard, impersonation of a merchant, as well as unlawful practice. Lord Shaun corroborates Lysander's story. He explains that yes, Lysander was one of the heroes hired to deal with the kobolds. He believes that Valthrun and these heroes are working on something that's important to the region, and he would appreciate it if Captain Kelfelm released Lysander with little more than a stern warning this one time. Captain Kelfelm, a true and loyal servant of Lord Shaun, agrees, begrudgingly. Lysander promises not to run any more cons and is released from the regulars' barracks within a moment or so. Having had enough of Market Day, Lysander returns to the tavern where his companions are waiting for him, a little concerned that they hadn't seen him for so long. But Lysander brushes it off, saying he was busy about town, he didn't really see the heroes either, so everything was fine. The party, having reconvened together in the tavern, all agreed to head over to Valthrun's tower together to enjoy a dinner and a discussion with Valthrun and Duven about their recent findings while the party was out gallivanting through the forest. Making their way over, they knock on the door and are promptly shown in by Valthrun to the upstairs dining room where they will enjoy their meal together and discussion in peace. Some idle chatter is shared. Duven informs them that he has been keeping a low profile in the village. He hasn't been attracting too much attention. The party explained that they were out hunting kobolds. Valthrun talks about the weather or whatever. But when the dinner is done, now the time for real talk begins.
Now, your friend Duven here and I have been discussing a few things while you were out dealing with those wretched kobolds. He says that the bandits were working for somebody who wanted bodies, and was taking them to that old keep in the north near here. Now, my books and scrolls told me it was built maybe 200 years ago. It was built as a sort of protection against some threat from the dark times, some undead horde or some such. It was built by an order of knights known as the Delian Order, who had been heavily involved in putting a stop to this horde. It was something about the fabric of reality thinning. Some cultists or some such had assaulted this area where there was a tear in the fabric of reality, and they had attempted to make it wider, but had been put to a stop by some such. And these knights had established this keep and took up watch to make sure that no harm would ever come from that area again. But that portal was not willing to be left alone, and according to one report, the knights were driven insane by their proximity to the portal and slaughtered each other. It was terrible. Duven's talk of being kidnapped, your note detailing some foul creature worshipping Orcus of all things, and this recent discovery at the dragon burial site. Do you know about this?
The party had not known about the thing that was discovered at the burial site because they had not had the chance to ask yet.
There's a great stone circle with these runes engraved along the sides of it. I'm not completely familiar with such things, but it seemed to me to be a artifact of a bygone era, a sort of a focus for abjuration and protection magics. Best as I can tell, this seal was involved in undoing the damage that the cultists had done to the fabric of reality beneath that keep. And the bandits had gotten their hands on it, but they would have had no interest in such thing on their own. I think whoever the bandits worked for had great interest in this seal. And near as I can figure, somebody is trying to crack our reality open like an egg for breakfast and serve it up on a platter to the demon lord Orcus.
This sounds like super bad news for the party, and they ask, what can we do?
Well, a good place to start, I would head north to this keep. If someone is trying to crack it open, they would be there. I would explore the depths of it, see if you can find anything of interest. The villagers believe it to be haunted or some such, but I wouldn't put much stock in ghosts. Go to this keep, find Calorel, put a stop to his ritual, and hopefully we can avert another disaster striking us.
The party have some questions, of course. One of the prominent ones being, what about this Delian Knights? What's the deal with them? What happened with them? Do we know anything about them? Long story short, Valthrun explains that the Knights had built the keep. They had been paid by some unknown benefactor to build this keep to guard the realm. And then one night, their commander went crazy and killed a bunch of the Knights. After suffering the heavy losses that entailed, the Knight Order disbanded. And they had kind of scattered to the winds. They ask if maybe they should send word to the nearby town to try and deal with this crisis that way. Valthrun explains that it will take over a week for someone to come back, and who knows how far along this ritual is. It would be better to send them in now to try and deal with this crisis immediately. Eventually, the party agree and accept the responsibility of heading down into this abandoned ruin to the north and investigating. They turn to Duven and they ask Duven, what are you planning on doing? Duven explains that he intends to leave Orlane and head back to Voxley Allen. He's had enough of adventuring out here. He's going to go back to the safety of his research position. Having finished their dinner with Valthrun the Prescient, the party decide that it would be a good idea to inform Lord Shaun of what they are planning on doing and see if maybe he can set up a reward for them. So the party leave Valthrun's tower and head towards the central manor house of Lord Shaun. At the inner gate, they are stopped by a pair of guards. The party discusses that they have business with Lord Shaun, and one of the guards runs off to fetch Captain Kelfelm. Captain Kelfelm is brought to the gate and introduced to the heroes, and he recognizes Lysander. And he allows the heroes into the inner bailey, but as they go in, he grips Lysander's arm and tells him not to pull any funny business while he's with the Lord tonight. Lysander, of course, agrees and continues walking with the heroes. But the heroes stop. They turn around and say, what was that about? Lysander says, oh, nothing, it's not important, let's just keep going. Captain Kelfelm says, this man was arrested earlier today for attempting to run confidence schemes on some of the populace, as well as impersonation of a merchant and evading arrest at the hands of the regulars. So he's on my watch list. The party look at Captain Kelfelm, and then they look at Lysander. Hoss just gives him a stern shake of the head. Like, why would you do this? Joff seems somewhat impressed that he was able to pull it off without too much consequence. And while Bruce is a little upset that the captain of the guard has a less favorable opinion of the heroes in general, he is also kind of amused that Lysander would attempt to pull these confidence schemes. Meeting with Lord Shaun, the party inform him that they have suspicions of cultist activity in the village. They are heading north to the abandoned keep to investigate. They wonder if Lord Shaun has any information about the hooded stranger Nanarin or anybody else that might be involved in these schemes. Unfortunately, Lord Shaun has very little to give. He isn't very familiar with cultist activities. However, he does agree that if the party is able to put a stop to whatever ritual may or may not be happening in the lower levels of that abandoned ruin, he will pay them a modest sum of 250 gold for services rendered. Having attempted to extract information from the Lord, mostly failing because he didn't know all that much, and having set up an agreed upon payment upon delivery of a job well done, the party leave the manor house and return to the tavern. As the hour grows late, the party decide to set off in the morning to go and find these ruins. They have a map, and so they know that it is about half a day's hike along the main abandoned road to get to this keep. And so they packed provisions, they ready themselves. Bruce casts Goodberry because that's one of the more broken first level spells in my opinion. And the party retires for the evening, ready to set off on their proper adventure in the morning. And that's where we're going to end today's session. As always, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions or comments you have, feel free to leave them in the blah blah down below. At this point, it's pretty obvious what adventure I'm running. I'm wondering if any of you can guess it. What do you think of Lysander's con? What do you think of Lord Shaun's decision to let him go? Do you think there should have been sterner punishments? Or do you think that was fair? Happy to answer all those questions and any questions about D&D in general down below. Again, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to roll your charisma saving throw against that subscription button. I hope you all have a lovely day, and until I see you next time, take care.